Okay, good. So quality now, this broad spectrum talks about a measure of excellence, right? It could be excellence in terms of education, excellence in terms of performance in a job, but depending on the quality of work that is produced, the human resource will be directly improved or reduced. So we're going to say quality is a measure of excellence, right? The quality of a country's human resource, there we go. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more just to make sure you're seeing it. There we go. Human resource is linked, directly linked to its skills development and education. Right, and this is a hot topic. If you don't inspire when they are young, they can't change. You can't inspire change if you haven't given anything to really instill that. So if you want to have quality citizens or quality life, the persons that have been instituted in that human resource pool in that society needs to have proper skills developed over time and as well as good education. But the education doesn't have to be strictly academic. I'm going to ask a question. What or where else can an education come from? And tell me the exact name of that education. When I take first person, let me write the question. Where else? This is just a review of a topic we've done already. Where else can education be found outside of academia? And what is the name? Official name. All right, here we go. Anybody?
Sir.
Who's that?
Talia. Well, first I want to tell you, Jada says to tell you that she keeps disconnecting from Zoom. So she may miss parts of the class.
All right, thank you. So just tell Jada that I'm trying my best to record majority of the class. So if she's disconnecting, she should be okay at the most.
Okay, so is the answer culture?
Culture what? Culture in terms of family. Remember where we talk about the different functions of a family?
What's the word? There's a word that means pass down. Like you pass it down. I don't remember the word, sir.
Right. But the word is not really important. It's just the function I wanted to say, which was cultural/education function. Right? So the title was the function of the family that really deals with education is cultural/educational function. So this is where the family itself, if it's not an academic situation, the family is supposed to instill morals and values and different traditions that would aid towards that child's or person's education nonetheless, which have improved their quality in terms of human resource. Everybody understand? All right.
Yes, sir.
Good. So that was quality. Let's go now to quantity. All right. But before we go to quantity, I like to just make sure you understand everything about quality. I'm going to tell you the different types of education outside of family. So you could go to schools, colleges. So education in academia can be found in schools, colleges, training centers, universities, and universities. There's more, but that's really the cusp of it. All right, that's quality. All right, and the next one now, we're going to talk about quantity. Quantity. Right. I was saying earlier that quantity has to do with the amount of persons. What would you call the amount of persons in a country?
Population.
Excellent. So the pyramid that we were talking about in the previous class is actually called a population pyramid, right? That's where the term comes from, because you're looking at amount of persons versus their characteristics, whether it's males versus female or etc. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But in terms of quantity now, you're looking at population. So there's two effects that could happen. One where there's too much persons and too little persons, or a small amount of citizens. That's right, Dad? So we're gonna say quantity in a very small country with a very small population. In a very small country with a very small population, something happened. There would likely be a smaller quantity of people making up human resource, which is what drives the country's economy. So if there's less persons in the economy or in the human resource pool, then that aids to suffer in terms of the country's performance, right? So the goal is always to have as much citizens as possible, not aliens, because those will actually take more away from a country, and I'll explain why at a later date. But in terms of countries, they want to have more citizens in the population if they're underpopulated. So there's likely to be a smaller quantity of people making up its human resource, and a bigger country with a bigger pool of resources. This is opposite to that. That's right. There we go. So in a small country with a very small population, there is likely to be a smaller quantity of people making up its human resource. Let me give you an example. Canada. Canada is the second largest land, well, unofficially, second largest land, and their GDP performance is abysmal. Why is that so? Let's put example Canada. So if I tell you that Canada is performing in terms of its citizens and performance in GDP is terrible, it's because they are really underpopulated. That's why you hear a lot of persons say they're going to Canada to work, immigrate, right? Because all right. All right, welcome back. Welcome back. That was a brief intermission. All right, let me just.
Hello, sir.
Welcome back.
You know, I actually did not know Canada was underpaid.
Yeah, you can look it up.
But I should have known because they pay children to have kids. Like they pay for the children's.
Right. And now tell me the direct opposite. Which country would you, off the top of your head, think is doing the exact opposite, where they're paying people
America.
Well,
China.
China. There we go. China. China is actually paying you to only have one child, right? Because they're overpopulated and the resources that they have can't disperse equally, right? So that's
what. I'm actually Chinese and Canadian.
That's interesting. Oh, all right. That's cool though. Chinese and Canadian. There we go. So Canada will make sure that persons are being paid or subsidized, or what would be the proper term? They are given opportunities more than other countries in terms of to repopulate, right? And a bigger country is likely to have a bigger pool of human resource, but not enough physical resource. Example, China. Right? And I could tell you a million stories about how and why this is true and what they're doing to really solve this. In the case of China, they're actually having this thing called false markets, where they actually pretend as if they have the resource and trick investors to invest in the country, right? So they say, for example, that our business is producing this amount of resources. Give us your money so that we can large scale it. But they don't actually. So what they do, they participate in fraud, and it's actually true. It's proven. You can't disprove it though. So whenever someone says, "Oh, China is participating in false markets," they can't prove it, but it's actually factual because they don't have the resources as they claim. I could go on further, but it's a whole rigmarole. But I hope you get the main point, right? Countries typically try their very best to either boost their human resource or, if they are large enough, try to boost their physical resource. Everybody got that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So just take note that I don't see Beyonce, Jada they explained. I don't see. Okay. And what happened to Janae? I haven't seen her.
Oh, they've been having connection issues for a long time.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Okay, let's move on now. We're going to go into composition. Right? We're not talking about your writing book. We're talking about the country's composition. When we say composition, I made mention earlier that we're talking about, for example, male and female, who comprises or who compose of the population. But there's different classifications. It's not just gender. There's actually age, right? Ethnicity, occupation, religion, right? Doctrine, all these different facets enable a country to have different compositions. So that's why sometimes when they're taking census, they might ask, what religion are you a part of? They actually categorize you based on that. Okay? So a population composition refers to the makeup. So we're going to write composition. There you go. This refers to the makeup or characteristics of people in a population, such as gender, age, ethnicity, occupation, or religion. Okay? All right. Now let's get into what we were talking about last week, which was the population pyramid. Let me take a picture of it. There you go. So I'm going to quickly just explain what we were talking about in this picture and why it's basically a summary of the different factors. Let's go here. All right. There we go. Upload. Excellent. There we go. It's loading up. Great. Can you see this diagram?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this diagram, what composition of a population do you see on the y-axis? So this is the x-axis, which is going horizontal, and the y-axis is going vertical, right? So what is the composition? We said that there's gender, age, ethnicity, occupation, and religion. Which one do you think is on the y-axis?
Age.
Right. So this population pyramid describes the amount of males and females in a given year in the country of Barbados. I should have written Barbados below, but this is Barbados. So let's break down how we read this graph. Let's start with the males section. Okay. Now, this essentially tells you that at the age of 0, right, there is, and you read it beginning at the 0 point right here, we call this a symmetry point. When you look at the first bar right here, what distance does it go to the left? Approximately what?
14.
Right? I'd say typically half of 5 is what? 2.5?
Yes, sir.
Right. So it have to be the division of 15 and 10, which would be 2.5. So I'd say about 12.5. You see that? Right? You see it? The division right here is 5. Half of 5 is 2.5, so it has to be 12.5. So we're saying at age 0, there's 12.5 thousand persons. At age 10, how many persons are there? At age 10 right here, how many persons does it say? A little bit. Repeat. All right, a little bit above 10 because here's where 10 cuts. So I would say about 10.5 thousand around there. So 10,500. Right, but let's look at a perfect division because I'm actually playing tricks on your eyes because this is very hard to see. Let's look at okay, how many persons, right, at the age of 50. So you would go down, trace it. Repeat. Let's check. Again, I'm apologize if the picture is very unclear, but you get the main idea. You try to trace it though, but when you have the picture on the exam, it's gonna be easy for you to just connect a construction line, trace it down, right? I'd say it's a roughly about. It's not necessarily close to 5 yet. I think okay, it is 5. It is 5. It's hard to see, but yeah. So at age 50, there's 5,000 persons. So there's 5,000 persons at the age of 50 in this population who is a male. Let's look at the female section now. Right. Let's look at age of um 20. How many females are there at the age of 20? Anyone? I'm trying to say. So here's 20 right here. You just trace it. You look. There you go. 10,000. Sir? Repeat. Sir, what did you say that ago, sir? How many females are there in the population of Barbados in 1950? I'm going over everything. In 1950, at the age of 20, based on the y-axis and the x-axis. So we look at 20. 0 or 10. Let's look. 9. Yes, it's 10. So it's 10,000. Okay, so good. So that's an example. And as you can tell, it looks almost like a pyramid. And we're going to describe the different shapes that you could have had. So the first shape that you could have is a perfect pyramid. But after a period of time, it could actually change into different shapes. Okay? So firstly, we're going to write what's a population pyramid. A population pyramid shows the age and sex distribution of a population. Let me write that. Okay, good. So, population pyramid. There you go. Excellent. Right. Population pyramid shows the age and sex distribution of a population. So we're still on the composition, guys. We're still on the composition. There we go. Because we're still talking about the age, gender, and ethnicity. But now we're looking at how you represent those. And you represent those using a population pyramid. Okay? All right, good. Now here's the thing though. The x-axis gives us the population number in thousands and is numbered in both directions from the middle. That's right, huh? The x-axis gives us the population numbers, so 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, right? And is numbered in both directions from the middle. So it goes both ways. That's why I say it's symmetrical. Okay? Right? The y-axis, however, up the side is divided into the age group perspectives. Okay. Now let me ask a question. This is a 500 IQ moment, right? Here's the question. Do you think population pyramids will change over time? Am I right? That question. Don't worry. What question, sir? Wait. Do you think population pyramids will change over time? Yeah, let me write the question before you answer. One sec. Do you think population pyramids will change over time. Anyone? I heard Brandon was going to answer. What were you saying, Brandon?
So let me ask you a question. Do you think population pyramids will change over time?
That's a good question, Brandon. I think so. I think so, and here's why. I am not my grandfather. You are not your grandparents. Something could have happened in the event, but in terms of improvements, is it a case where?
Sorry, repeat that word, sir. You sometimes you go in and out.
Oh, in terms of improvements, what has improved since my grandfather has been around?
We have cars, technology, and all of that.
All right. So here's the thing, because of technology has improved, that means education was improved, right? So population pyramids has to change over time simply because of the fact that we see improvements in technology based on the younger generation that have become more in depth. So let me write that. So age pyramids change over time because as a population becomes more educated, right? As a population becomes more educated, the younger population gets smaller. Let me explain why. If I can have a laptop that my grandfather didn't have, that means everything else has improved. Healthcare, right? A way of life. So that means I can live longer. Does that make sense? So no longer do I have the lifespan. You can argue that it has decreased, but on an average basis, right? I tend to live a better lifespan than my grandfather. So I would say, therefore, the younger population gets smaller because of the life expectancy has improved. Make sense, everybody?
Sir, I don't understand what you just said.
All right. Let me ask a question. Right. I'm saying if technology has improved, right? If I have a laptop that wasn't invented 20 years ago, right? I'm saying that's not the only thing that has improved. Healthcare has improved as well. There's medicine for a common cough that wasn't even around.
What's your more money? So it's not better.
Right, but there's more jobs. So it's not a case where there's only one
more
thing that's
jobs that pay less.
No, you can't argue that. You have to be an economist to tell me that. Then I would believe you because it has improved. The minimum wage,
Sir,
right?
I don't know who fooling you, sir. They would know job has increased.
Listen to me.
Them always decrease your pay every month.
No. Your parent is telling you that, right? I hear someone saying yes.
My pay was $500 every time I do a chore. Now I get $250 every time I do a chore. See?
we'll have to have a union meeting with your parents to decide why you're getting paid less. But I get what you're saying. But really and truly though, on an average basis, right? Healthcare has improved based on the fact that we have been improving technology. So we say with more healthcare available, the older population increase. So that would lead to a decrease in younger generations. Because if your parents are working, and God forbid it, they'll probably be more invested in their career on an average than raising a family, which is true for some families, right? They're more invested in their career. So all of these factors would lead to the fact that the younger generation dwindles, right? And you become healthy, you have a longer lifespan, right? So we start to see a trend where the older population rises and the younger population decreases. Everybody understand? Did I lose anybody?
No, sir, continue.
All right, good. Okay, so that's explanation for why graphs change. Okay? So let me explain what this graph is going to look like because we're looking in the past. Let me tell you how the graph actually looks like now. So the graph was modified in 2015 and it actually gave back a result that looked like this. I'll show you. There we go. Here we go. And I'm going to ask one person to characterize what is happening. Okay. All right, there we go. Can you see the picture? It's loading up. Okay, good. Right, this says 2015. Is there any difference between the 1950 graph and the 2015 graph? What major difference do you see? Let me zoom out so you can see it.
Less males than female. Less people.
That's so general. I could say there's less people right now because 1 second ago someone died, but that's too general.
There are older people.
Good.
More older people than younger people.
Right. Okay. That's good. So that proves what we were saying above here. So we can say this is actually factual, Brandon. This is facts, right? Because if I took a census in 1950 and I saw that I had more younger generation than old persons, but now in 2015 I take the measurement, I see that there are more older generations than there are.
Because technology is killing people off.
I think you need to become an economist. You're very filled with ideas. I think it will challenge some person. So I like to see you become an economist. But let's look at how the graph is projected, because we can actually say, well, based on the past and based on now, let's make a prediction for the future. So they're predicting in Barbados that in 2050, let me show you. In 2050, the graph is gonna.
Sir, question is: each year them take a population census?
Repeat.
Or is it each year they take a population census? Or pyramid at each year?
Yeah, it's easier. Right.
So each year. No, I mean sir, it's each year they take a population.
Oh no, it's not each year. It's every 5 years.
Why, sir? Why is not each year?
Because the resources, and it's ironic that we're learning about resources, the resources that is spent to take one census every 5 years would come at a cost that is too much if it was taken every year. Because it costs a lot to have persons in every community that's tabulating data. It costs a lot, right? Food, travel, everything. So we have to make sure that we're keeping a track of that and just make sure it's just every 5 years. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Right. But and next thing too, if you took it every year, Brandon, you wouldn't actually see a change. I know that sounds counterproductive to what I'm saying, but if persons on both sides of the coin, they know that they're gonna be having a census.
So you would have barely see a little bit of change.
Right. So and it wouldn't really be of any use. If I get the same graph every year, what's the point? Right? Okay. Now let's look at a projected view of Barbados in 30 years from now. Right? 2050. I want one person now, preferably Beyonce or Jada Lee. Are they there? Are they here? Yes, Beyonce is here. Right. Beyonce, can you tell me now, what improvements or what difference do you see from the 2015 to the 2050 graph? Are you there, Beyonce? All right.
Or what did you say, sir?
Right. I was saying, what difference do you see in the 2015 and the 2050 graph? Let's zoom out. There we go.
Nothing. What already said my part?
All right. So does anyone want to help Beyonce? Or are you still let me give you a moment.
Sorry, in the 2015 one, it's like you have less males and females, and I think so, sir. And in the 2021 you have sir, I don't know. Is it like 2021 is like less, and then the 2015 one is like more?
All right, let's explain it in terms of numbers now. So in 2050, let me just write here. So we're gonna say now, based on the graph, right, for the males in 2015, for example, there were more middle-aged men than elderly or younger generations, right? There were more middle-aged men than elder or younger generations. So this means
Sorry, what if it actually looks like that in 2050?
it will, because it's been accurately predicted by scientists. It will.
They're looking a little bit sus this year. What's going to happen for the population to drop sus?
No. The population. This is a good thing. If you have a graph looking at this for your population, that means your economy is doing good.
And you mean good?
Let me explain
people,
why.
Seriously?
Look at this for me. Look at this.
So you telling me they made the coronavirus for a thing, sir?
No.
Kill us off?
No. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying.
To have such a small population?
Brandon, look at this for me. This is not a small population. It's technically the same amount of persons. Well, not really, but because some persons have been born and died. But understand this. The persons that are at 0 years old, in 100 years or 90 years, they're still on the graph. They're just in a different age range. You understand? So it's not a case I'm saying people are dying. It's the case that persons are either living longer or when they are in the working field, they are having children versus not. Right? So if you have a balance among all the different age ranges, that means there's a equal proportionality. That's a big word, but it's basically saying that for every person that's working, they're either having one child or they are producing an offspring.
That's a bad sign, sir.
So that's good because that means, therefore, that the healthcare aspect is improving because older persons aren't dying so quickly. But the same coin of flip, you might say it's a bad thing that, the population is not giving as much children as it did. But if it's a case where you're looking at that, in 1950 there were so many children that didn't have a parent. That's why your parents wanted the best for you because they didn't have any household that you have now, right? So you might say, they're just not having any children in 2050, but that's a good thing.
Abortion wasn't a thing those times.
All right, I can see what you're saying, but it's a good thing. Just understand that because now that means we have our population under control. We aren't producing children that we can't afford, right? You understand?
Yeah, I understand hurtfully, sir, but okay.
This is social studies. We're learning how to socially study, I guess. But it's harsh, but it's true because majority of the time, countries like, for example, America, they have to be spending so much money to take care of the society because they're unemployed, right? That shouldn't be. It's a land of opportunity. Why are there so many persons that can't work? Because they have a disproportionate. They have a disproportionate graph. They have too many younger generations pumping out too many children, and the old generation, right? They have a poor lifestyle, right? So it goes back to even the functions of the family. If there are less older generations to teach the younger children how to have socially adept responsibilities or how to culturally behave, that's why it's a catch-22 because it in turns goes back in a loop. If there's more people dying in older generations, then there's no one to teach the younger generations, right? So we predict the graph to be this because that in essence serve a perfect household where there isn't too many children being produced and there isn't too many elders dying, right? So let me finish what I was writing here. Based on the graph, for the males in 2015, there were more middle-aged men than elderly or younger generations. In the prediction, it accounts for the fact that lifestyle and healthcare would have improved to the basis that families, human resource is on a more controlled, predictable, and manageable fashion. Right? Okay. That's really and that was a good discussion. I like the discussion. So, We can move on into now the final piece, which would be skills development and enhancement. We've been really on composition right now. So let's move on now into skills. There we go. So we're on skills development slash enhancement now. Skills development slash enhancement. Okay. Okay. So here we go. Skills development is where really a country or economy provides education, right, and training for the persons that are supposed to be doing work, right? The skills enhancement now comes under it. That's right, what skills development is. Skill, right? A skill is an area of expertise or an ability to carry out jobs involving ideas and or people. That's right, huh? A skill is an area of expertise or an ability to carry out activities or job functions involving ideas, things, and or people. It's very general. Okay? Now here's why. Skills development now comes underneath. So we're gonna say skills development now talks about the fact where our country provides this education, right? So that persons can develop new ideas. So it could be a country, a economy, or a firm, a law firm, or a scholarship fund, anything really, right? But just make sure that that institution, right, that organization is providing education and training, so that the workers can improve and have a better standard. Okay. All right. Now there's different types of workers. There's four main types. So we're gonna say there are four main types of workers. You have unskilled workers, unskilled workers, semi-skilled workers, right? A skilled and highly skilled worker. Skilled workers and highly skilled workers. Okay, good. Right? I'm just gonna give you a brief definition of each. If I'm saying that someone is unskilled, right? They don't possess any skills, so they just want to work. So they are just restricted. So these persons are restricted to cleaning or labor jobs. All right, semi-skilled now. I'm talking about persons who have some training, right, in using, for example, tools and machinery, but they're just a half of the ordeal. So they can only learn to drive, for example, a tractor. They can manipulate tools and machinery, but they aren't skilled in the fact that they can create something, right? Okay. So workers who have some training in using tools or machinery. For example, a laborer who has learned to drive a tractor is a semi-skilled worker. All right, and then skilled worker now is saying that you are trained in a field and you can work independently. Right? All right, and the final one. Right, let me ask a question now. What do you think a highly skilled worker would be in terms of their cap, like their cap space? In terms of if you have skilled workers who can work independently, what would a highly skilled worker be doing? Think of a worker and their boss, right? So we're saying that highly skilled persons will typically supervise skilled workers, right? So we say highly skilled workers have specialized skills and knowledge, and they are tasked to supervise others. These workers have very specialized skills, right, and knowledge, and can sometimes supervise others. Let me give you a moment to write that. Everybody have that down? All right, I'm gonna stop the recording here.